Welcome. This is a video for
Me.
chapter 10, and it's for quiz. And I don't have the questions in front of me, but I do not have that. So I'm gonna have to write them out. So question number one. By the way, Natalie is here, and she wanted everyone to know that and say hello. She just said hello, and so is Chad. So number one. It says a parabola always, sometimes, or never has an axis of symmetry. Well, this is a parabola. It always has an axis of symmetry. Okay, number two. Number two says graph f of x is greater than or equal to negative x squared minus x. Now, this one here is a multiple choice question, but let's look at this. First of all, we're thinking y is greater than or equal to negative x squared minus x. So, if it's greater than or less than, it's a solid line when you graph it. So the choice is you got to look for a solid line. Well, that gives you choice A has a solid line upside down, and choice C has a solid line, and it's happy face parabola. Now the next thing we can decipher is whether or not it's sad or happy. So we look at the question we're given, and there's a minus sign in front. So this would be a happy face parabola with a plus sign in front, and the minus sign in front would be here for choice A. Also, for choice A, the shading is above the graph, that hence the greater than sign. And the shading for C is also above. So the only difference is the minus x squared versus the positive x squared. And for this particular one, A is the choice. Okay, so if it was greater than or less than, it would be a dotted parabola. And depending on which way it was shaped, it would be dotted. And that's choice D, or I'm sorry, B and D. So B has a dotted parabola like this, and D has a dotted parabola like this. Now, so that tells you dotted or solid. Now, if you want to know the shading, greater than or equal to or greater than, the shading is above the parabola. So for instance, if you have a frown face parabola, it's above this way. And if you have a happy face parabola, it's above this way. So it's above it. Okay, do we see those differences? And then less than or equal to, so if you have a frown face parabola, it will be inside. And if you have a frown face parabola for, I'm sorry, a happy face parabola, happy face parabola, less than would be out here, below. So this is below, oops, hold on. Below is less than. This is above both of these. Okay? So let's look at the choices that are on there. I did a quick sketch of them here. This thing is above, and it's solid. So this would be greater than or equal to. The above is the greater than sign. The equal to makes it a solid line. Okay? It's a frown face, so it's a negative x squared. C is above and a solid line. So that's greater than or equal to also. And but however, it's x squared, positive x squared. It's a happy face. B is a happy face, or sorry, D is a dotted line, so it's less than, and it's below. And it's a happy face, so it's positive x squared. D is a dotted line, and it's above. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I draw D wrong? No, I drew D right. Okay. D is a dotted line above, so this would be greater than, and it would be negative x squared. And our choice for A, or our answer was A because our original function was greater than in the frown face. So it's a solid line frown face above shading, and that's choice A. Okay, we're going to look at question number 3, which is negative x squared plus 16 equals 0. And you have to solve this for x. Now be careful. Yes, Natalie. Sure, what do I do, Natalie? No, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Because we're taping. I mean, we're videoing. Go ahead. Okay, so you want to get rid of addition or subtraction first. So we have, I'm sorry, addition or subtraction first. We have addition, so we got to subtract to get rid of it. So we get negative x squared equals negative 16. Now be careful. What do we get rid of next, Natalie? The negative sign. And we get rid of that by, now you could say this is negative 1 times x, so we could divide both sides by negative 1. And we get x squared equals 16. So we had multiplication and we used division to get rid of it. Okay, now we got to get rid of the x squared. We have an exponent, which is squared, so we're going to have to do what? Square root both. So the square root of x squared equals the square root of 16. Square root of x squared is x. The square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. So be careful, that's choice B, not choice A. Choice B works both, so it's the plus and the minus. So if I go through and check that, negative x plus 16 equals 0, or x squared is 0, and I check 4, negative 4 squared plus 16, does that equal 0? Well, this is negative 16 plus 16, that equals 0. And then if I check negative 4, negative and negative 4 squared plus 16 equals 0. And the same thing happens. You get negative 16 plus 6 equals 0. And that one checks. Okay, now we're going to look at number 4, which is x squared plus 20 equals 4. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We have addition. We've got to get rid of it by using subtraction. So subtract 20, good. And you get negative 16. Now the next step was get rid of the exponent. And we're going to square root both sides just like before. Now you got to be careful here. When you enter negative 16 on your calculator, it gives you an error. Okay? So this would be no solution. Don't fall for the fact that you think it's negative 4. Because we need the same number to multiply to equal the question. Sorry, I'm looking at what I did here. And that doesn't work out. Does not work out.
So it's no real number solution?
No solution. Yeah, no solution. And they say real numbers because we haven't gotten the imaginary numbers yet. We won't till next year. All right, moving on to number 5. Now 5 gives you a parabola. Okay, it intersects the y-axis at negative 1. Okay, but you don't really need to know that information for right now. What you do need to know is that what its vertex and axis of symmetry is.
So the vertex would be negative 2, 1.
Okay, so its vertex is right here at negative 2, positive 1, okay, on the y-axis. Okay, so we write that as negative 2, 1, And is this a max or a min? Well, let's see. It's going up a hill. You go up the hill. The highest you get is here, and then you start to go downhill. So this is called considered a max. Okay. A min would be like this, because the lowest point is right there. Okay. So again, mark it on your paper, study it, make sure you know it. It wants the vertex. Okay, it's easy now, but sometimes you forget. Okay, number 6, it says to graph it. Now, instead of making a chart for this, let's first write it as y equals 2x squared plus 2x minus 2. So first of all, what do we know about this graph? Is it happy or sad? Okay, it's happy because there's a positive 2 out front. So that eliminates choice D. The next thing is, we could make a chart, but let's get the axis of symmetry first. So the axis we said in class is the opposite of B over 2 times the A value. Well, in our case, A is 2, and B is 2, and C is negative 2. Okay? Okay, so let's use this formula, the axis, which equals x. X equals the opposite of b. Well, the opposite of 2 is negative 2. And 2 times a would be 2 times 2, which is 4. So I get negative 2 over 4, which reduces to negative 1 half. Okay, so now we have to find the parabola. Well, we have to find a parabola in the picture that has an axis at negative 1 half, which would be like right here between 1 and 0, or negative 1 and 0. So that would be the parabola that is centered around that and is also a happy face. Okay, so there's 2 choices there, but if you look at it, I mean, there's two choices. A's out of there, so we're down to C and B. But C says the axis of symmetry is negative 0.5. They both say that. So they both say x equals negative 0.5, which is negative a half. However, the vertex, which is this point right here, what's the ordered pair on that? Well, it's negative 0.5 comma negative something. Okay, and it's 2.5. So you see how that eliminates question, it eliminates B, so the choice answer is C for that one. Okay, so then you didn't have to graph the whole thing. Okay, now we're going to move on to the graphing portion of the quiz. So let me give you a chance to write that down. I'll pause the video. Okay. All right, we're going to look at the next question, which is a graphing question. Okay, and it says f of x, but we can replace that with y is less than or equal to x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, and I said when you're graphing, you want to find the axis first. So you need to memorize this formula. The opposite of the b value over 2 times the a value. Well, we list out our a, our b, and our c to help us out here. A is what? It's the number out in front of x squared, which is 1. B is negative 4. And C is 1. Now we're going to put it in our formula. X equals the opposite of B. Well, if B is 4, opposite of B is plus 4. So we put a plus 4 here over 2 times the A value. So that's going to be 2 times 1, which is 2. So what is our axis? 4 divided by 2 is, yes, 2. Good. All right, so now you have your axis. Okay, we're going to put that, well, first of all, let's look at a few things here. Is it solid or dotted? Solid line we're going to graph. Is it below or above shading? Shade above or below the line? Below, because it's less than. It points down. X squared plus x squared, is it a happy or sad face? Happy face. Okay, so our graph should look something like this. All right? Okay? I don't know, you can remember that as a beard versus a mustache. Now, it might be too hard to remember. It's below, shading's below. Okay, so we're going to make a chart. Okay, we need our x values, and they're centered around 2. So I'm going to go 3 and 4, and 1 and 0. Okay, always going to square the values and find out what x squared is. So that's going to be 16, 9, 4, 1, and 0. Okay, our next term, so we're taking care of the x squared. Now we got to take care of the minus 4x. And remember, that's minus 4 times the first column. So that's negative 16, negative 12, negative 8. I got to be careful. Negative 4 and 0. And then I always say, just do the last column and just make your life so much easier. Add 1 to everything. Okay, hold on. Then we're going to have a y value. And we're going to have an x, y column. Okay? All right, so you're going to add. Okay, we want to graph this equation, so we have 3 things. 1, 2, 3. We're going to add those together. Even though it says minus 16, we're really subtracting. You're adding a negative 16, it's really subtracting, but you just add across. Use your calculator. You shouldn't have to on the first one, but if you do, it's going to be 1. The next one is negative 2. Then we're going to get negative 3. The next one should be negative 2, and it is. And the last one should be 1, and it is also. Now I know, because it's centered around my axis, and these numbers are all the same, I'm in a good spot. Now I suggest you write the x, y order pairs so you don't mess it up. 1, 4. First column, 3, negative 2. First column, 2, negative 3. I'm sorry. Next one, 1, comma, negative 2, and 0, 1. And take a second to look. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, negative 2, 3. Okay, so it checks out. Okay, now you got to bring it together on your piece of graph paper. So I'll give you a second to graph it while I pause the video. Okay, a good rule of thumb, and this is good graphing in general, is mark your axes, x and y. And your first value is your x value. It's alphabetical. X and then y. So go x, 1, 2, 3, 4. And your y is 1. So it's going to be a point right there. Your next value is 3. 1, 2, 3. Down 2. So 3 down 2. It's going to be right here. 2 down 3 over 2. We're at 3. Sorry, it's kind of hard to write on this. 3, 2, 2, negative 3 is right here. And now, since you know it's symmetrical, you could say, well, this is my axis of symmetry right here, down the middle of the parabola. So I know if this is 1 away, then my other answer's got to be 1 away. And I know if this is 2 away, 1, 2, then it's got to be 2 away this way, which is it is. 0. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So 1 away here, and then this one's 2 away. So up here, it's going to be 2 away here, and I got a point there. That's a different way of doing it. And then try to make, again, a solid graph. Try to make it a curve as opposed to a point. And then our shading is going to be below. It's going to be where our solution is. Okay. And it's always good to write your equation. Y is less than or equal to, was it x squared? I think it was minus 4x plus 1. Is that right? Minus 4x plus 1. Okay. On your piece of graph paper. So try the next one on your own and see if you can get it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie, and I like ponies a lot. So let's start from the beginning. We're going to go.
Oh my goodness. Why don't you
Where
do the
are
next
we?
question?
Oh, okay.
Oh, hold on. Okay, Natalie is going to do the next question. We're sorry for that moment of interruption. Y is greater than
I'm bad.
2x squared plus 2x plus 1. So, Natalie, walk us through this one.
Well, should we do the chart?
You're going to do the whole problem, hopefully. If not, I can finish it.
Take it from here.
Okay, Natalie. All right, I'm going to pause so we let other people in the room finish. Okay, so we're going to use, again, the formula. The axis of symmetry is equal to negative b over 2a, but instead of writing that, we say the opposite of b over 2 times a. Be careful with this, because the opposite of 2 is negative 2, and 2 times, do I have the right question now? Okay, actually, that's not right. Okay, and sorry, we had a little glitch here. So, the opposite of b is negative 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So actually, this is negative 1 half. My apologies, the people in the room. So it's negative 1 half is the axis of symmetry. So on your chart, you're going to center things around negative 1 half. Now, that is a little confusing because negative 1 half is not a whole number, and it makes things a little bit difficult. So let's just think about this. Negative 1 half, if we go backwards from that, we can go, or go up from that, we're going to go to 0 and 1. And then if we go the other way, we're going to do negative 1 and negative 2. Okay, so be careful with this. We still want to square x. Okay, hold on 1 second. We have a question in the crowd. Okay, so we're using whole numbers here because the halves are hard to deal with here. We probably won't even figure out what the vertex is. We're just going to have to probably guess or estimate where it is. So we're going to square all the x's. So 1, 0. I'm not even going to figure out the x's, or this one here, because it deals with the halves at this point. 1 and 4. Okay, the next column over is going to be 2x squared, because we need to take 2 and multiply it by whatever x squared is. So 2 times 1 is 2. 0. We're not going to do this one. And 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. It's not negative 2. Is it negative 2 in the start? No, it's plus 2x. Plus 2x. Okay, so I'm sorry. It's plus here too. I'm looking at the wrong 2. So now it's 2x. So now we're going to take this 2 and multiply by the x column, which is way over here. So this is going to be 2, 0. That's where you're going to get your negative 2 from here. We're not going to do that. The negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Okay, do you see how that works? That makes sense? You got to do this tomorrow on your own. Okay, moving along, we're going to do add 1 to all those answers. Well, we're not going to do that one. Add 1. Add 1. Okay, and that's going to give us our y value. Okay, but we're only going to add the first 3. We don't want we don't want this column here. We only use this column just to get the x squared, so we can multiply by 2. We didn't make a mistake. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, or 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. This is 1. We're not going to do that one. This is 1, and this is also 5. So I'm happy because it's symmetrical. Okay, symmetrical. Now we're going to go to our graph. Okay, well actually let's do our order pairs so we don't make a mistake on that. So x comma y order pairs. I'm going to have 1 comma 5, 0 comma 1. Again, I'm grabbing this number and this number. Not going to do the vertex. Negative 1, 1, and last negative 2, 5. Okay, those are the numbers we're going to graph on our graph paper, so I'll give you a chance to graph it. I'm going to pause the video. just do what it's or figure out what it says. Okay, we're graphing negative 2, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is right here. Negative 1, 1 would be right here. We don't know the axis, we don't know the vertex. I know the axis is negative a half, so I'm in the right area. 0, 1 would be right here. That's a little tricky. And the next one would be negative 2, I'm sorry, 1, 5 would be right here. So you can see that it's going to turn, right in here. Tomorrow's will be a little bit easier to graph. Also, I did not make it dotted. You want to make that line dotted because it says, at the beginning of the question, it said y is greater than 2x squared plus 2x plus 1, was it? And if it's greater than, that's above the line. Well, here's the line, and above the line would be in here. So that would be your graph for this one here. The shaded greater is up, less than is, well, let's not say up. Let's say greater than is above, and less than is below. So above would be shaded up, above the line, and below would be shaded below the line. So this is above the line. Above this line here is in this area here. So if we had a less than sign, we'd be shaded down here. Greater than is above the line. That's all for this tutoring session on how to graph parabolas. Have a nice day. Natalie says hello, and Jed says goodbye. And Jed has pizza.